Hello there, sugar dumplings. Thank you for coming back to my channel and checking out this spread design. This is one of my brand new shiny Christmas and Yule spread designs for 2017. I really love this one. This is one that has come straight from the heart of my inner child, and it's really nice to be able to explain it to you guys now so that you know what is available over on the store when you purchase this, but you also can use the spread design positions for yourself if you would like to do a reading for yourself for the period of Yule and Christmas. I know it seems like it's a little bit early to be talking Yule and Christmas stuff, but I wanted to do things a little bit earlier this year, guys, because I know that there are a lot of people that get into the Yule and Christmas spirit a lot sooner than other people do, and they want to get their readings done in advance. Maybe they're looking around for a spread that they want to confirm for themselves a couple of weeks in advance or a month in advance. So I want to be able to get the Yule and Christmas stuff out on the channel and on the store early. I know that a lot of people do purchase their Yule and Christmas readings early too, so I just wanted to give people the opportunity to get into the spirit if they wanted to. But if this is not at all relevant to you and you're wondering what the fuck I'm doing showing this spread design to you in November, then please do just bookmark it, put it on your watch later list, and you can come back to it when you're feeling a little bit more festive. Before I start explaining these 6 spread positions for the Snow Queen reading, I just want to make the same disclaimer that I always make. This is not a reading, guys. I'm not going to be turning these cards over. I'm not going to be doing any interpretations of the cards or anything of that nature. This is merely a setup so that we've got something visual to look at, so that you can get in your mind how each of the 6 spread positions goes and what order they go in for when you actually do the reading for yourself or purchase the reading for me to do for you. So just letting you know, I'm not going to be turning these cards over, but for anybody who is curious about which deck I'm using for this little setup, I'm using the Wild Unknown Tarot, guys. This is the backing for the Wild Unknown Tarot. And since I know there's going to be at least one person who wants to know what these stones are, these are rose quartz. I suppose that's pretty obvious. These are amethyst, again, pretty obvious. Lapis lazuli. I've got some green jasper here and some green quartz there. Again, just a setup, just to make things look nice, just for my amusement, really, okay? Just for my entertainment. I like to have a nice little setup to look at while I'm talking about spread designs and going through the spread positions, rather than you looking at my face and not really having that visual kind of anchor. And you will see each of the 6 spread positions listed for you below for your convenience, but now I will just go through each of the 6 and just explain a little bit about the concept of the Snow Queen reading, so you can understand whether or not it's going to be useful for you as a purchase option from me, whether you might want to use the spread design yourself. If you want to tweak it, change it, do your own thing with it, that's fine. So this reading is based around the concept of the archetype of the Snow Queen or the Ice Queen, and for me I'm focusing primarily on the archetype that is kind of embodied by the White Witch from the Narnia Chronicles. I was obsessed with her when I was a child. I've thought a lot about her character in the films, in the series, in the books, and I've really kind of thought about why my obsession was so strong, why I felt such a deep affinity for this woman and her story and her outfits and everything else, why she was such an interesting portrayal for me of a witch and of a woman. And so basically this Snow Queen reading really allows me to dive into a lot of my thoughts and feelings about the White Witch archetype, the Snow Queen kind of archetype. When I started designing this particular spread, I was thinking mainly about themes like brokenheartedness, mistrust of other human beings, complex wisdom that is derived from dark situations, dark deeds, difficult experiences of loss and disappointment. And also I was thinking about the relationship that we have with our own power and the shadow and the light of that power and the spectrum that that power kind of moves on, and how we choose to interact and engage with the idea of our own personal power. And so that's kind of where I was coming from with it. I think this spread would probably be particularly good for anybody who is exploring themes concerning their personal power or their identity. I think it would be good for anybody who, like me, is kind of interested in archetypes such as the Snow Queen, the White Witch, the Ice Queen, the Alpha Bitch archetype, that kind of stuff. I think it'd be really useful for people like that as well. I think it will be useful for people who want a Yule reading that approaches a theme that is to do with divine femininity, a theme that is to do with goddess energy, a theme that pertains to archetypes and archetypal energy, archetypal forces. This also could be a good one for you as well. And maybe just anybody who wants to try something a little bit different, a little bit out of the box, a little bit off the wall. So we begin with position number 1, in the top left hand corner, and this position is called Defense of the Cold Realm. This is the first card for the reading, and with this particular spread position we're looking at assertiveness, boundaries and limits. So with this first card, what I would advise that you do is really think about the level of assertiveness that you have in your life, the boundaries that you've set up in your life, whereabouts those boundaries are weak and whereabouts those boundaries are strong, how you communicate those boundaries, and how you also communicate your limitations, your no compromise zones, you know, the things that you are not willing to be flexible on. So we are thinking a lot about communication with this first card. We're thinking a lot about erecting boundaries and also defending your boundaries. And we're thinking about any challenges that might be coming up for you lately, or that have come up for you since last Yule, maybe, if you want to look at it from a more long-term place, that have really caused you to have to be assertive about your boundaries and actually kind of really be strong-willed when you maybe wanted to say yes but you had to say no, for example. Is thinking about where you've managed to be strong, where you've managed to erect your boundaries and communicate clearly what you are willing and not willing to do. And also you can take a look at whereabouts you haven't really been able to assert your boundaries. Was it because there was a specific person involved who makes you feel disempowered? Was it because you felt as though people wouldn't like you as much if you asserted your boundaries? That kind of thing. So it's really all about looking at boundaries and limits. It's looking at asserting yourself, making sure that you are saying no when you mean no, making sure that you are not letting yourself get roped into any obligations or work that you don't want to do. It's really looking at whereabouts you might be letting others encroach upon your space or invade your boundaries, and how you can go about resolving those issues. Okay, so the second spread position for the Snow Queen reading, in the middle on the top row, is called Truth Traced in Snow. And this second card position is looking at tactful authenticity, honesty and integrity. So here we're looking at when you really just need to tell the truth, when you need to come clean about what's going on with you. It's also looking at how authentic you're letting yourself be in certain situations. You know, how much are you letting yourself be the true you? And whereabouts are you holding back when it comes to your authenticity? Don't forget that word integrity is really kind of bound up with this second card as well. We're looking at what you think integrity means. What are your principles? What are your ethics? What are your kind of guiding statements that you want to use to live your life in a way that upholds integrity from your perspective? And it's looking at whereabouts you've been able to do that and whereabouts you've also been struggling to do that. Sometimes these cards can come up with advice to help you do these things in a more meaningful and consistent way. Sometimes the cards will come up with warning signs and red flags, areas where you are not putting these things into practice. And sometimes the card will just give you some contemplations to go into, something to explore maybe in your journaling or your meditation work. So now let's look at card number 3, which is the final card on that top row. The spread position is called Thawing the Ice Heart. Thawing the Ice Heart, and this one is about healing, forgiveness and moving on. So for me, there's something about the Snow Queen archetype that implies quite strongly that there has been some deep wounding that's occurred, and actually what's happened is that the heart and the energy of the heart has switched from open and willing and vulnerable to closed and hard and guarded, and that to me is a lot of what kind of creates the Snow Queen archetype. There's a lot of backstory behind that kind of archetype from where I'm kind of viewing it from. So Thawing the Ice Heart is this card that looks into whereabouts the hurt still hasn't been fully healed, whereabouts healing might need to take place for you on your journey, whereabouts you might need to kind of centre on the theme of forgiveness, and whereabouts it's time for you to actually move on. So whereabouts might you be shrouding yourself in the hurt that you've previously experienced, and how can you now begin to just let go, release that stuff and move on into the next phase of life. So this is really the healing card, and this is going to be a key part of your exploration in the Snow Queen reading. It's looking at whereabouts the healing journey is ongoing, whereabouts you need to forgive, whereabouts you can now release and move on. This card is likely to be very revealing, guys. And then the fourth spread position is the very first on the second row, and this one is Carving the Ice Castle. I particularly love this card. For me, this is the strongest and most potent card in the reading. When I did the reading for myself before I decided to put it out there for clients, I just really fell in love with this fourth spread position. So with Carving the Ice Castle, we're looking at using your pain to fuel your creativity. So it's looking at the difficulties you've been going through, the challenges you've been experiencing, the adversity that you've been up against, and it's looking at how you can use those things to fuel your self-expression and how you may actually need to process those things as well using self-expression. So it's marrying your difficulties with your creativity. It's marrying your problems with your creative potential, and it's looking at the connection of those two things. It's looking at how they can be combined and taken to the greatest advantage possible. And then the fifth spread position, which is the second on that bottom row, is Silence of the Ice. And this one is looking at spiritual progression and lessons. So here we're looking at the spiritual path, progress that has been made, lessons that have been learned, things that you may still need to progress with and learn, as well as triumphs that you've experienced in the spiritual area of things. As with the other cards in the Snow Queen reading, guys, sometimes this card is going to bring forth deep contemplations, you know, kind of journeys that you can go on in your mind. Other times there will be red flags there. There might be things in that card that you can clearly see that you have not made progress with, or that you are struggling with, and the card may actually draw your attention to that struggle and ask you to place more focus on it. And other times it's just going to be a card which really underlines your achievements and accomplishments, and it will basically urge you to acknowledge the journey that you've been on, the awesome useful lessons that have come forth in your spiritual journey, and it will just be a moment to kind of recognize how far you've come. So it really depends. Not every single Snow Queen reading is going to be the same. Sometimes it will be more red flags and stuff to focus on. Sometimes it will be just underlining and highlighting things that you are already aware of and might need to just check in with or really celebrate. You know, so there are kind of different variations on what the card could bring up. I think that's personally true of all readings, and every single spread that I design, I always like to remind myself before I get started that there are a number of different possibilities. There's really a spectrum of different possibilities for every card position. And then the final spread position in this bottom corner here is Hex of the Snow Queen. This is the sixth and final card for the Snow Queen reading. And this is looking at relationship shadows. For me, the Snow Queen archetype has quite a lot of shadowy stuff attached to it when it comes to connections, human relationships, trusting and being able to be trusted. It's about being honourable, it's about trusting others to be honourable, and it's about those deep connections and how they can be severed by mistrust, by trauma, and all that kind of thing. So Hex of the Snow Queen is looking at the shadows that have been taking place or ongoing in your relationships with other people. Now this final card may present some challenges to you, because I think quite often when we turn over a card which has a title like this in a spread design, we are very often looking for the shadows in relationships which are the direct result of other people's bad behaviour or other people's issues. But sometimes what can come through in a card like this is your own relationship shadows. So what you are doing that could be within the realm of bad behaviour, or the issues that you have been unwilling to look at. So it's not always about what has been done to you, but it is also very often about what you might be doing to others, or how you are putting obstacles in your own way and how those obstacles are preventing you from having meaningful, strong, truthful relationships. So Hex of the Snow Queen definitely could present some challenging messages, but one way or another it's going to be about your relationship shadows. It's going to be about the way that you conduct yourself in connections with people, maybe the people that you choose for your lovers or your friends, issues that you have been learning along the way, or problems that you're having at the moment or have had in the previous months regarding relationships with people. So all in all, there's quite a lot of ground to be covered here in the Snow Queen reading. I'm going to leave the link for you below which takes you to this reading purchase option in my online store. If you would like to purchase it as one of your Yule and Christmas treats to yourself, then go right ahead and do so. I would love to sling some cards for you. But don't forget that you are always welcome to use this spread design to do personal readings for yourself as well. Honey bunnies, I've really loved sharing my Snow Queen spread design with you. I hope this has been helpful. There are some other Yule and Christmas themed spread designs coming your way, but do feel free, of course, to check out my Yule and Christmas spread design offerings over on the store. I'm going to leave you the link to that part of the store as well. Much love and festive vibes. Blessed be.